Hello, today we're going to be talking about the Byzantine Empire. Now you might be like, who's the Byzantine Empire? Well, it's actually just the eastern half of the Roman Empire. So our lesson question today is what contributed to the rise and fall of the Byzantine Empire? And our lesson objectives are to describe the achievements of the Emperor Justinian I, explore the factors that split the Christian church, and analyze the effects of the fall of the Byzantine Empire. And this picture here is Emperor Justinian and his wife, Empress Theodora. This is your vocabulary for the lesson. The word diverge is to split or to become different. Orthodox is traditional customs or beliefs. Patriarch is a high-ranking official in the church. The plague is a quickly spreading disease that kills a large number of people. And a schism is a division among members of a group. So the origins of the Byzantine Empire, it's basically, like I said earlier, just the eastern half of the Roman Empire. And you can see here how on the eastern half there's the Byzantine Empire. In 263 CE, the Roman Emperor Diocletian split the Roman Empire. Empires are harder to govern or administrate when they're bigger. So Byzantium was an important Greek trading city and actually became the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire. Justinian I was known as one of the greatest Byzantine emperors. He tried to reconquer all of the former territories of the Roman Empire. He created a law system known as the Justinian Code, which was basically an updated code of Roman laws. And basically, he had this uniform set of laws to help govern and regulate that large empire that we talked about. These laws regulated many aspects of Byzantine life. Anything from crime to marriage, even women's rights and property rights. Justinian's wife and most trusted advisor was Empress Theodora. She is often referred to as the most powerful woman in Byzantine history. She passed laws to protect women's rights, including the right for women to divorce their husbands. There was a Roman emperor named Constantine, and actually, my name's Constantine, so I'm actually named after this Roman emperor. And he moved the capital of Rome from Rome to Byzantium. In 330 CE, he renamed Byzantium Constantinople. He named it after himself. In 476 CE, Rome, that's the city Rome, not Byzantium or Constantinople, Rome fell to Germanic invaders from the north. So since the Roman Empire fell, that's when we usually think about, oh, Rome fell. But the eastern half of the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, would be kicking for another 1,000 years. The Byzantine economy was very important because Constantinople was an important trading center. They traded in luxury items like wine, silk, gold, and ivory. They connected Europe with the trading routes of the East. The Silk Road went from China through the Middle East to Constantinople, where goods were then spread throughout the rest of Europe. So basically, they became a huge center for trade. Now you can see here on the Silk Road, it started here in China, and then it went along the Silk Road and picked up different goods like silk and ivory and things that weren't really common in Europe. And then they got to Constantinople, and then the Byzantine Empire spread those goods throughout the rest of Europe. Now, part of the Byzantine Empire was to kind of reclaim or rebuild from the Roman Empire. Byzantine culture was heavily influenced by Greek culture. Now, Greek was the official language of the Byzantine Empire, and Byzantine scholars preserved the writings and teachings of ancient Greek. So basically, Byzantine education was modeled after Greek education. Another part of building the new Rome was massive construction projects like we saw in the city of Rome. This picture here is the Hagia Sophia, which was a large church built by Justinian. There was a divergence in the Christian church. Rome and Constantinople, they started to disagree, and the churches began to diverge or split apart from each other. The Western Church had its capital city, Rome. The church was led by the Pope. Now, there was no emperor in Rome at the time, so the Pope had complete authority. The Pope claimed authority over both the East and the West. Now, the Eastern Church, on the other hand, was led by the Patriarch. Now, he was basically the Bishop of Constantinople. Now, since the Byzantine Empire had an emperor, the emperor had authority over both church and state, and they actually rejected the Pope's authority. That led to the Great Schism of 1054. Basically, the church was permanently divided between East and West. The Western Church became the Roman Catholic Church, and the Eastern Church became the Eastern Orthodox Church. You can see on that map where they split. Now, we want to compare these two churches because they were very similar in that they both believed in one God and that Jesus was divine and the Son of God. But they did differ in a many number of ways. The Roman Catholic Church, the Pope had authority over all of the European kings. The services were held in Latin, and the priests were actually forbidden from marrying. Now, in the Eastern Orthodox Church, the emperor had authority over the church. The services were all held in Greek, and the priests were actually allowed to marry. There are a few factors that led to the fall of the Byzantine Empire, one of which is the bubonic plague. This severely weakened the empire and killed about 10,000 people a day when it was at its height. There was also the rise of Islam. By 700 CE, Arab Muslims began conquering territories that belonged to the Byzantine Empire. Egypt, Syria, they were both conquered, and conflicts in Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey, lasted for centuries. Constantinople itself, the city, fought off numerous invasion attempts. But it wasn't enough. In 1453, Constantinople fell. A group known as the Ottoman Turks, and the Ottoman Empire was a Muslim empire in modern-day Turkey. They led an attack on Constantinople, and the last Byzantine emperor was actually killed while defending the city. The Turks renamed the city Istanbul, and it is still called Istanbul to this day. There were some effects of the fall of Constantinople. There was a decline in Christian rule and a rise in Muslim rule. The Byzantine Empire was no more. Islamic culture began to spread even further. The Orthodox Church was relocated to Russia, and the Ottoman Empire became a strong force in Eastern Europe for the next 500 years.